The night was quiet in Antarctica. Captain Taiho stood outside the research station and watched the stars. He was a marine biologist. He had spent 15 years studying the ocean and its creatures. Tonight, something felt wrong. The seals were too quiet. The penguins had disappeared from the shore. His colleague, Dr. Yuna, walked out to join him. She was an expert in predators. She studied how hunters and prey live together in nature. Her face showed worry. "The animals are hiding," she said. "All of them. I have never seen this before." Taiho nodded. He had noticed it too. Even the birds had stopped flying. The whole continent seemed to be holding its breath. Then the sky changed. A massive shadow appeared above them. It blocked out the stars. Taiho looked up and felt his heart stop. A ship hung in the air. It was bigger than any aircraft he had ever seen. It was bigger than a city. Lights glowed along its surface like 1,000 eyes. "What is that?" Yuna whispered Dot before Taiho could answer. Beams of light shot down from the ship. They touched the ocean. The water glowed bright blue. And then the water began to rise. Taiho watched in horror as hundreds of seals floated up into the air. They were frozen, unable to move, trapped in columns of light. Whales rose from the deep. Orcas, leopard seals, penguins. All of them lifted toward the ship like leaves in the wind. "They are taking them," Yuna said. Her voice was shaking. "They are taking everything." The same thing was happening all over Earth. In Africa, elephants and lions vanished from the plains. In the Amazon, jaguars and anacondas disappeared into the sky. In Australia, crocodiles and dingoes were pulled from their homes. In one single night, millions of animals were stolen from every corner of the planet. The aliens called themselves the Velen. They were traders. They traveled the galaxy looking for rare things to sell. And they had found the rarest thing of all, Earth. Commander Drex stood on the bridge of his harvest ship. He was tall and gray, with 4 arms and eyes like black stones. He watched the cargo reports with satisfaction. His people had been collecting animals from many worlds. But Earth was special. Earth had more types of life than any planet they had ever found. "How many specimens?" he asked. "Over 3 million so far," his assistant reported. "And we are still collecting." Drex smiled. The Velen did not have mouths like humans, but his face showed pleasure. "Excellent. The exotic pet markets will pay fortunes for these creatures. Look at them. So colorful. So strange." On his screen, he watched elephants being loaded into stasis pods, giraffes, zebras, beautiful birds with bright feathers. "What about the predators?" Drex asked. His assistant checked the data. "We have collected many. Large cats, wolves, bears, sharks. They seem aggressive, but they have no real weapons. No acid, no poison, no psychic abilities. They are just animals with teeth." Drex laughed. "Primitive. A primitive world with primitive life. These creatures will make perfect pets for wealthy buyers. They look dangerous, but they are harmless." He did not know how wrong he was. Back on Earth, Taiho made a decision. As the light beams continued to pull animals into the sky, he grabbed Yuna's arm. "We have to follow them," he said. "Are you crazy?" she asked. "They are taking our ocean, our wildlife, everything we have studied, everything we love." Taiho pointed at a cargo pod descending nearby. It was collecting seals from the ice. "If we hide in that pod, we can get aboard their ship." Yuna stared at him. She was scared, but she was also angry. These aliens were stealing Earth's creatures like they were nothing, like they were just products to sell. "Okay," she said. "Let us go." They ran across the ice. The cold wind cut their faces. The light from the ship made everything glow blue. They reached the cargo pod just as it began to rise. Taiho grabbed the edge and pulled himself inside. He reached back and helped Yuna climb in. Around them, frozen seals floated in stasis fields. Their eyes were open, but they could not move. Taiho and Yuna hid behind the bodies as the pod rose higher and higher. They entered the ship through a massive door. The inside was dark and warm. Strange smells filled the air. They heard alien voices in the distance. They saw lights and machines they could not understand. They had made it aboard. They were now prisoners on an alien vessel, surrounded by Earth's stolen wildlife. But they were not the only ones awake. Deep in the cargo hold, something moved. The stasis field on one container had failed. Yellow eyes opened in the darkness. A low growl echoed through the metal corridors. Claws scraped against the floor. The Velen had taken predators from Earth. They thought these animals were simple. They thought teeth and claws were no match for their technology. They had never met a tiger before. They had never hunted. They had never been hunted. Their world had no predators. They did not understand what it meant to be prey, but they were about to learn. 3 weeks passed. The Velen ship flew through space, carrying its stolen cargo toward home. The ship was called the Eternal Commerce. It was not just a transport vessel. It was a flying zoo. The Velen had built massive domes inside the ship. Each dome held a different environment from Earth. Taiho and Yuna had survived by hiding. They moved through the maintenance tunnels at night. They ate food stolen from storage rooms. And they watched. They learned. They were not alone. On their 5th day aboard, they found others. A woman named Bora had been captured in Kenya. She was a wildlife photographer. She had been too close to a pride of lions when the harvest began. The light had taken her along with the animals. A man named Minho had been fishing near Jeju Island. The Velen had grabbed his boat while collecting sharks. He had hidden in the engine room and escaped the stasis field. There were more. Dozens of humans scattered throughout the ship, all accidentally taken with the animals they lived near or studied. They formed a small community in the tunnels. They shared information. And they waited. Keeper Tharn was worried. He was the head zookeeper of the Eternal Commerce. He had collected animals from 12 different worlds. He thought he understood creatures. But Earth's animals were different. He walked through the grassland dome and watched the zebras. They stood in a group, all facing outward. Their ears moved constantly. Their eyes never rested. Every few seconds, one would stomp its foot or snort. Why do they do that? He asked his assistant. Unknown, sir. They never stopped watching. Tharn moved to the deer habitat. Same behavior. The deer stood alert, ready to run at any moment. They flinched at shadows. They jumped at sounds. Every prey animal from Earth acts this way, Tharn said slowly. They are afraid. Constantly afraid. But afraid of what? He did not have to wait long for an answer. 2 days later, 3 Velen workers entered the large cat habitat for routine maintenance. They had done this many times with animals from other worlds. They carried tools and scanners. They did not carry weapons. Why would they? Animals were just animals. The tigers had been watching them for days. They had learned the patrol schedule. They knew when the doors opened. They knew how many workers came. They knew the sounds of the machines. The workers walked in. The door closed behind them. One tiger did not move. It lay in the grass like a statue. The workers walked past it. They thought it was sleeping. The second tiger circled behind them. Slowly, silently. Its orange and black stripes made it invisible. In the tall grass, the third tiger waited by the door. The attack lasted 11 seconds. Only 1 worker escaped. He came out screaming, bleeding from deep wounds on his back. His partners never came out at all. Commander Drex reviewed the report with anger. "Incompetent workers," he said. "They were careless. The animals are just animals. They cannot plan. They cannot think." But the incidents continued. A wolf pack escaped their enclosure through a hole they had dug over 6 days. No one had checked the ground. Wolves on other worlds did not dig. Earth wolves did. A group of crows began attacking sensor drones. They worked in teams. One crow would distract the drone while others attacked from behind. When they destroyed a drone, they carried pieces back to their nests. They were learning how the machines worked. An octopus escaped its tank by unscrewing the lid from inside. It crawled through the ventilation system for 3 hours before anyone noticed. Bora watched all of this from the shadows. She had spent her life photographing predators. She knew their intelligence. She knew their patience. She knew what they could do. "They are not just surviving," she whispered to Taiho. "They are fighting back." In the maintenance tunnel, they found evidence. A honey badger had escaped its cage. Instead of hiding, it had attacked a patrol drone. The drone was in pieces. The honey badger had dragged the parts to a corner and was studying them. "That thing weighs 10 kilograms, Yuna said with amazement. "It attacked the machine 5 times its size." "That is what honey badgers do," Taiho replied. "They fight everything. They do not know fear." The Velen did not understand what they had taken. Their galaxy had simple ecosystems. On most worlds, animals evolved for only one purpose: eating plants. Or eating those plant eaters. Nothing more. Their predators were obvious and direct. Their prey was passive and accepting. Earth was different. Earth was an arms race. On Earth, prey animals had evolved to escape. To run. To hide. To fight back. And predators had evolved to catch them anyway. Millions of years of competition had created the most dangerous animals in the galaxy. The Velen had taken them all. In the aquatic section, Keeper Tharn stood before a massive tank. Something inside was ramming the walls. Over and over. Each hit made the metal groan. He checked his scanner. "Large filter feeder," it read. "Primarily eats small fish. Harmless." He looked at the shape in the water. Long body. Pointed nose. Black eyes. "What is a filter feeder?" His assistant asked. Before Tharn could answer, the creature hit the wall again. This time, a crack appeared in the glass that it was not a filter feeder. The scanner had made a mistake. It was a great white shark. And it was hungry. The shark broke through. The glass wall exploded outward. Thousands of liters of water flooded the deck. The great white came with it. It slid across the metal floor, jaws opening and closing. 3 Velen workers could not escape in time. The shark caught them before the water drained away. But the shark was not the real problem. The water released everything else. Electric eels spilled across the floor. Any Velen who touched the water received a shock strong enough to kill. Piranhas flopped in the shallows, biting anything they touched. Saltwater crocodiles, held in smaller tanks nearby, found their cages weakened by the impact. They broke free one by one. The aquatic section became a death zone in minutes. Commander Drex received the report on his bridge. His gray skin turned pale. "Seal that section," he ordered. "Seal it now." But the creatures were already spreading. A small team of humans had been watching from the tunnels. Hansel was among them. He was a former soldier. He had been hiking in Siberia when the harvest happened. The light had taken him along with a pack of wolves. Beside him stood Nari, a veterinarian from Mongolia. She had been treating injured wolves when she was captured. "The containment systems are failing across the ship," Hansel said. "This is our chance. We need to move." Taiho agreed. "We need to reach the bridge. If we can control the ship, We can take everyone home. They split into teams. Taiho and Yuna would find a way to the bridge. Hansol and Minho would sabotage the stasis systems, freeing more animals. Bora and Nari would coordinate what Hansol called psychological warfare. The Velen are already scared, Nari explained. They have never been hunted before. If we release the right animals in the right places, we can make them panic. It worked faster than they expected. The wolves were released near the sleeping quarters. They did not attack immediately. They were smarter than that. They watched. They followed. They let the Velen see them in shadows, hear them in corridors. The crew stopped sleeping. Fear spread like a disease. Komodo dragons escaped from the reptile section. These creatures did not need to catch their prey. They only needed to bite once. Their mouths were full of bacteria and venom. A single wound would kill slowly. The Velen learned this the hard way, but the most terrifying creature was the smallest. A single honey badger moved through the ship like a ghost. It attacked anything: drones, equipment, Velen who walked alone. It could not be caught. It could not be stopped. It did not care about size or strength or weapons. It just kept fighting. The Velen had a word for this behavior. They called it impossible. On Earth, it was called survival. Specialist Neva found the humans by accident. She was a young Velen scientist. She had always felt uncomfortable with the harvest. Taking creatures from their homes seemed wrong to her. Now, watching the chaos, she felt sick. She discovered Taiho and Yuna in a corridor. Instead of calling for help, she raised her 4 hands in peace. "I want to help you," she said. Taiho did not trust her. But Yuna saw something in the alien's eyes: guilt, shame. "Why would you help us?" Yuna asked. "Because what my people did was wrong," Neva replied. "And because I know something that will help you understand." She told them the truth about the Velen. Their world had no predators. Their species had evolved without competition. They had never been hunted. They had never needed to fight for survival. The concept of something wanting to kill them was completely foreign. "Your animals are not just dangerous," Neva said. "They are terrifying in ways we cannot process. We do not have words for what they do. Ambush, stalking, pack hunting. These are alien concepts to us. Our minds cannot handle them." Yuna understood. "You have no fear response because you never needed one. Yes, when your creatures attack, my people freeze. We cannot think. We cannot act. It is like our brains stop working." Taiho looked at Yuna. That is why they thought Earth's predators were harmless. They could not imagine what predators actually do. Commander Drex was finally starting to understand. He stood in his command center, surrounded by screens showing chaos throughout the ship. Animals loose in every section. Crew members dead or missing. Systems failing. What did we take? He whispered to himself. What did we bring aboard? His assistant ran calculations. "Sir, we have collected approximately 847 species capable of killing Velen. The creatures appear to have multiple hunting strategies: ambush, pursuit, pack coordination, trapping. We have no defense against any of them." Drex felt something he had never felt before. His heart beat faster. His skin went cold. His hand shook. He was feeling fear. Real fear. For the first time in his life. "We need to purge the ship," he said. "Open the airlocks. Vent everything into space." But before he could give the order, the lights went out. In the darkness, Hansol smiled. They had found the power controls. The hunt was about to begin. The ship went dark. Emergency lights glowed red along the corridors. In that dim light, shadows moved. Claws clicked on metal floors. Growls echoed from every direction. The Velen crew had become prey. Hansol moved through the maintenance tunnels with purpose. He had been a soldier. He knew how to fight. But he also knew that tonight, humans were not the main hunters. He released the stasis locks on Section 12. Inside were the African plains animals. Elephants, rhinos, Cape buffalo. These were not predators. But they were not helpless either. The first Velen squad to enter that section learned quickly. An elephant charged at them with tusks lowered. A rhino followed. Cape buffalo surrounded stragglers. These animals had evolved alongside lions and hyenas. They knew how to fight back. Minho worked on the ocean systems. He was just a fisherman. He had never fought anyone in his life. But he understood water creatures better than any scientist. He opened the holding tanks carefully. Barracuda, moray eels, box jellyfish. He directed them through the flooded corridors like a shepherd guiding sheep. Except these sheep had teeth and poisoned out in the command center. Commander Drex was trapped. The doors were sealed. The communication systems were down. He could hear something scratching at the walls. "What is out there?" he demanded. His security officer checked the sensors. Small body, large claws, primarily nocturnal. What species? Earth classification, Wolverine. Mass approximately 12 kilograms. Drex felt relief. It is tiny. Our doors will hold. But the scratching continued. Hour after hour. The Wolverine was testing every seam, every bolt, every weak point. It did not get tired. It did not give up. That was what Earth taught its creatures. Never stop. Never surrender. Keep fighting until you win. Nari guided Bora through the predator sections. They were looking for something specific. "There," Nari whispered. "The Australia section." Bora looked through the observation window. She saw kangaroos, koalas, wombats, harmless creatures. Then she saw the spider tanks. "The Velen took everything," Nari explained. Funnel web spiders, redbacks. They thought spiders were just insects. Decoration for habitats. Bora felt cold. Australian spiders were among the deadliest on Earth. A single bite could kill a human in minutes. What about snakes? She asked. "NAR. I pointed at another section. Taipans. Brown snakes. Death adders. The Velen scanner called them legless lizards with mire venom. They released them all. Meanwhile, Tayo and Yuna reached the bridge. But they did not fight their way in. They walked openly through the corridors. Velen crew members saw them and ran away. They were not afraid of the humans. They were afraid of what walked beside the humans. Lions escorted them. Real lions. The Pride had escaped hours ago. They had been watching the humans, learning, remembering. On Earth, humans and lions had lived near each other for thousands of years. They were not friends, but they understood each other. The lions knew that these humans were not prey. They walked different, smelled different, acted different. The lions also knew that the Velen were weak. Easy to hunt, easy to catch. So when Taiho walked toward the bridge, the lions walked with him. Not attacking, not protecting, just accompanying. A silverback gorilla moved aside to let them pass. It met Taiho's eyes. There was recognition there, understanding. This human was from Earth. This human had survived the same world the gorilla had survived. They were both children of a death world. The ships. AI had been watching everything. It was designed to analyze and calculate. It was designed to find the best outcomes. After observing the chaos, it reached a conclusion. When Taiho reached the bridge door, the AI opened it. Commander Drex spun around. He saw a human standing there. Behind the human, he saw a corridor full of predators. Lions, wolves, a massive brown bear. They filled the hallway like an army. "What are you?" Drex whispered. Taiho stepped forward. He was not armed. He did not need to be. My name is Taiho. I am from Earth, and you made a terrible mistake. Drex shook his head. You are just one species. How do you command these creatures? Taiho looked back at the animals behind him. The lions watched with calm eyes. The wolves sat patiently. Even the bear waited quietly. I do not command them, Taiho said. We have an agreement. It is 3 million years old. They do not hunt us. We do not hunt them. We live together. We evolve together. We survive together. He turned back to Drex. You do not understand what you took. These animals are not monsters. They are not weapons. They are my neighbors. We grew up on the same world. The deadliest world in your galaxy. Every creature on Earth learned to fight, to hunt, to survive. Taiho stepped closer. You wanted to know what makes Earth special. I will tell you. We are all apex predators. Every single one of us. The prey animals fight back. The predators think ahead. The plants poison their enemies. Even our bacteria are dangerous. He gestured at the chaos around them. You took from a death world. And now you know what that means. Drex lowered his head. He had no response. He had no defense. He had nothing left. What do you want? He asked quietly. Surrender the ship, Taiho replied. Return us home. All of us, every human, every animal, every creature you stole. And then you will leave Earth alone. Forever. Drex nodded slowly. Agreed. Behind Taiho, the lions began to purr. The Eternal Commerce limped home. Of its original crew of 3,000, less than 1,000 survived. Commander Drex sat in his quarters, staring at nothing. His career was over. His reputation was destroyed, but he was alive. That was more than many of his crew could say. The ship sent a transmission ahead. It included video. It included reports. It included everything that had happened since the harvest began. The Velen Collective watched in horror. The Galactic Council met within hours. Representatives from 42 species gathered in the Great Chamber. They had been trading and exploring the galaxy for thousands of years. They had cataloged over 10,000 inhabited worlds. They had systems for rating planets, resources, technology, danger level. Earth had been classified as Category 7. Primitive, pre-contact, safe for exploitation. A planet of interesting animals and undeveloped natives. Nothing special. Nothing dangerous. We need to change that classification, the Velen representative said quietly. The council reviewed the evidence. They watched tigers hunting groups. They watched wolves coordinate attacks. They watched a honey badger fight machines 10 times its size and win. They watched prey animals defend themselves with horns and hooves and sheer determination. And they watched the humans. The humans had organized resistance. The humans had survived alongside the predators. The humans had walked through corridors full of deadly animals, and none of those animals had attacked them. What are they? An insectoid delegate asked. What is their relationship with these creatures? Doctor. Yuna appeared on screen. She had been chosen to speak for Earth. We are from the same world, she said. We evolved together. We hunted the same prey. We competed for the same resources. We fought each other for millions of years. She paused. And then something changed. We made peace with some of them. We tamed wolves and made them dogs. We rode horses. We farmed bees. We learned to work together instead of against each other. The council members looked at each other with confusion. You formed alliances with predators? A scaled delegate asked. With creatures that could kill you? Yes, Yuna said simply. That is what Earth taught us. Survival is not about being the strongest. It is about being the smartest. the most adaptable, the most willing to work with others. The Galactic Council voted unanimously. Earth was reclassified as Category Omega, the highest danger level. The classification reserved for worlds that could threaten galactic civilization. Worlds with deadly radiation. Worlds with planet-destroying weapons. Worlds that no one should ever visit. And now, a world full of apex predators. The message went out to every ship, every station, every colony in the galaxy. Do not approach Earth. Do not take from Earth. Do not provoke Earth. The consequences would be severe. 3 months later, the animals returned home. Taiho stood on the shore in Antarctica and watched the ships descend. Doors opened. Seals slid back into the water. Whales were lowered gently into the ocean. Penguins waddled onto the ice dot in Africa. Elephants walked back onto the savanna. Lions stretched in the sun. Giraffes bent their necks to drink from familiar rivers in Australia. Kangaroos hopped through fields. Koalas climbed their trees. Even the spiders returned to their webs. Everything went home. Specialist Neva stood beside Taiho as the last elephant walked down the ramp. She had chosen to stay. She had testified against her own people. She had helped return the stolen creatures. Now she was in exile. I do not understand something, she said. What is that? How did you do it? You walked through those corridors. Lions were right behind you. Bears. Wolves. They could have killed you easily, but they did not. Why? Taiho thought about the question. He watched the elephant disappear into the distance. Fear is about distance, he said finally. Animals fear what they do not understand. We have lived with these creatures for 3 million years. We understand them. They understand us. There is no distance. He turned to face her. Also, they know we are dangerous too. We hunted mammoths with wooden spears. We drove lions from their kills with fire and courage. Every predator on Earth knows what humans can do. They respect us. And we respect them. Neva nodded slowly. She was beginning to understand. Earth was not a planet of victims and killers. It was a planet of survivors. Everything on Earth had learned to survive everything else. 1 year later, humanity joined the galactic community. But they did not join as a primitive species. They did not come with technology or weapons. They came with something else. A Korean delegation arrived at the largest space station in the galaxy. Diplomats, scientists, soldiers, and one dog. The dog was a border collie. His name was Dory. He sat beside Nari, wagging his tail and watching the aliens with friendly eyes. The aliens gave him a wide berth. They had seen what Earth creatures could do. Even a small, friendly-looking animal could be deadly. A nervous delegate approached Nari. His skin was purple, and his hands shook slightly. Is that creature dangerous? He asked. Nari scratched Dory behind his ears. The dog leaned into her hand happily. Him? No. He's friendly. He loves everyone. The delegate did not look convinced. Nari smiled. But his ancestors hunted mammoths across frozen plains. They chased prey for hours without stopping. They worked in packs to bring down animals 10 times their size. She looked at the dog with affection. And then, one day, they chose to be our friends. They decided that living with humans was better than hunting alone. They became our partners, our companions, our family. She looked back at the alien. That is what Earth is. A world where the deadliest creatures learn to live together. A world where predators and prey made peace. A world where species that should be enemies became allies. The delegate swallowed nervously. And if we respect that, if we leave Earth alone, then we will be your allies too, Nari said. Earth creatures are very loyal. Once we decide you are a friend, we will protect you, help you, stand beside you. She stood and walked toward the meeting chamber. Dory trotted beside her, tail wagging. But if you threaten us, she added over her shoulder. Remember what happened to the Vaughn. Remember what our animals did. And remember that we are the species that tamed them. The galaxy learned an important lesson that Earth was not a zoo. Earth was not a farm. Earth was not a collection of resources waiting to be taken. Earth was an arena, a battlefield, a testing ground where life fought life for 3 billion years. Every creature that crawled from its oceans, walked its plains, or flew through its skies had won the oldest and deadliest competition in the universe. They had survived, and now the galaxy knew their name.